Chosen one, fix your focus on this message in this very moment. That gentle voice at the back of your thoughts, the one that keeps softly reminding you that you were created for something distinct. Stop avoiding it. The adversary has been exerting extra effort this week for a single purpose. He has recognized what has been placed upon your life, and he understands that the moment you truly grasp what sets you apart among 8.2 billion people, his influence over your mind will come to an end. It stops here. The comparisons, the shrinking back, the constant need to apologize for occupying space in environments you were divinely meant to step into, all of it ends now. And understand this clearly. It is not concluding because of chance or timing. It is concluding because of everything you have already endured to reach this precise moment. Reflect on that instance this week when you observed someone else's life, someone else's advancement, someone else's breakthrough, and felt something sink within your chest. You grew silent. You withdrew. You convinced yourself of the false idea that perhaps the gift within you is not as uncommon as you once believed. What you did not realize at the time is that your withdrawal was not defeat, it was realignment. Your spirit refused to engage in a race it was never meant to run. That pause established something in the spiritual realm. You did not lessen your calling, you affirmed it. You did not come across this message by coincidence. No system or algorithm led you here. The Holy Spirit guided you. This is a divine encounter that was established before the foundation of the world. You are standing at the edge of one of the most important revelations about who you truly are that you have ever faced. Remain until the final moment of this message, because in the next few minutes, you will receive a defining truth that distinguishes your assignment from every other individual alive today. You will be guided through the unique design of what God has placed within you, something that cannot be imitated, reproduced, or replaced by any other person in history. And in the end, that understanding will be sealed with a declaration that shuts down every attempt the enemy has made to distort your identity. Do not turn away. The version of you that exists in your future is waiting just beyond this message, urging you to remain. Because if you leave now, you will step back into a world that has been misleading you about your worth, and you will lack the strength to silence those lies. You know how the past 72 hours have felt. The atmosphere has not merely been busy or loud. It has been confusing, as though the ground beneath your purpose has been shifting, leaving you unable to stand firmly. Perhaps you spent time this week looking through the achievement of others and experienced a mix of happiness for them and sorrow for yourself. Or maybe you found yourself awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, staring at the ceiling, reviewing your life and confronting questions you could not answer. Who am I truly? Why does everything feel so slow? Am I the only one who feels this far behind? It feels as though you are living between the identity the world assigns to you and the identity God has spoken over you, and that space has begun to feel overwhelming. Within that space, the enemy has been whispering a specific facet. Pay attention to your thoughts. He has been telling you that the reason you feel different, set apart, misunderstood by those around you is not because of divine intention. He has been suggesting that something is wrong with you. He has been replaying memories, moments when you did not belong, conversations where others could not comprehend what you carried, seasons when your gifts were ignored. He has been constructing an argument. His claim is this: you are not extraordinary. You are simply alone. Your uniqueness is not a blessing. It is isolation. But you need to understand what Scripture truly declares about this moment. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5, it says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Consider that declaration. Before your formation, before your birth, before the world formed any opinion about you, God had already established his decision. Set apart. In its original meaning, this speaks of being consecrated, chosen, and reserved, not rejected, but reserved. What the enemy has labeled as your flaw, God has identified as your signature. What the world has called strange, heaven has defined as your assignment. You are not damaged because you do not conform to the pattern. You are invaluable because you are the pattern. Among the 8.2 billion people alive on this earth today, there is no one else who carries the exact combination of what exists within you. No one else's wounds shaped the way yours are being shaped. No one else has a calling aligned the way yours is aligned. No one else has a voice tuned to the precise frequency yours was designed to carry. This is not mere encouragement. This is a spiritual reality with authority. The weight you have been sensing is not the burden of being overlooked. It is a responsibility of being chosen. It is a pressure of being prepared to carry something new. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not excluded from the promise. You are the reason the promise exists. Some messages simply confirm what your spirit already understood. If something just shifted within you, that is not just feeling, that is activation. And what follows now carries greater significance than anything that came before. The inner sanctum exists for this exact point in your path. Continuous divine messages delivered to you each day, guiding you step by step forward. A prophetic message, an authoritative decree, a scriptural weapon, and a prayer directive written as though God Himself is addressing your exact circumstance. It also includes a silent war, a spiritual attack analysis that uncovers precisely where the enemy has been targeting you and provides a corresponding counter-prayer for every strike. In addition, there is a midnight watch, 30 prayers specifically crafted for the 3 a.m. hour, a time when many chosen ones are already waking but do not yet understand how to engage. The link is placed in the first pinned comment, though it will not remain there permanently. Now, let me explain what this truly signifies for your life in this present moment. This is the point where many individuals receive insight, yet walk away unchanged, not because they lack belief, but because they lack understanding of how to apply it. They felt the intensity briefly, returned to their routines, and allowed familiar voices to overpower the Divine One. That will not take place here. Not now. Not after everything required to bring you to this exact point, this precise alignment of spirit and truth. The first reality you must grasp is that your distinctiveness is not vague, it is structural. Picture a master builder who does not simply sketch a concept, but carefully constructs every beam, every opening, every foundational element with deliberate intention. God did not merely assign you a personality and label it destiny. He is a divine designer who formed a specific internal framework within you. This framework is an extraordinary and detailed fusion of your deepest wounds, your strongest gifts, your sharpened spiritual awareness, and your profound ability to endure hardship. None of these elements were randomly assembled. Every aspect was measured and aligned with exact precision. Each part is perfectly balanced to address a problem that no one else in all of human history was designed to resolve. This is not decorative language or abstract spirituality. It is pure function. Your life carries a structural purpose, a divine blueprint, just as a skilled locksmith creates a key with intentional design. A key is not defective because it cannot open every door it encounters. In fact, its brilliance lies in its precision. It was created for one specific lock, one exact challenge, one mechanism that only it can unlock. You are that key, uniquely shaped for a divinely assigned purpose within the vast scope of God's plan. Psalm 139 speaks of this intentional creation, how you were formed within your mother's womb, made with awe and wonder, with every day of your life recorded before even one came into existence. This reflects the depth of your design. But it goes even further, beyond what most people recognize. Many individuals, in their sincere search for meaning, try to discover their purpose by examining their talents. And while gifts are real, powerful, and significant, they are only the visible surface of something far more specific and essential. What truly defines your uniqueness, what leaves your permanent imprint on creation, is not merely what you can do, the skills you possess, or the abilities you display. What makes you truly distinct and irreplaceable is what you have endured and still choose to believe despite it all. Pause and allow that truth to settle deeply within you. Talent can be developed, refined, even imitated under the right conditions. But the deeply personal combination of what wounded you, what shattered your understanding of life, what brought you to your lowest moments, and yet did not destroy you, that combination is sacred. The places where pressure was so intense that, by all human reasoning, you should have given up, abandoned faith, or surrendered to despair. Yet you did not. The long stretches where everything felt silent, where the divine presence seemed distant, and still you continued forward, step by uncertain step. That battle-tested combination is entirely unique. It has never existed before you, and it will never exist again. This is not meaningless suffering. It is transformation. It is a refining process where your irreplaceable nature was not only revealed, but carefully formed and strengthened. This is where your resilience, your insight, your deep compassion, and your unwavering conviction were shaped. This is a place where your true purpose was carved out. David understood this with remarkable clarity long before he ever became king. Before he sat on Israel's throne, before he wrote the Psalms that would guide generations, he lived through seasons of isolation and unseen battles. There was a wilderness, harsh and lonely. There was a confrontation with a bear threatening his flock. There was a lion representing overwhelming danger. And there was a valley of Elah, where he stood as a young shepherd before a giant who caused trained warriors to tremble in fear. Yet in that defining moment, when the future of a nation was at stake, David did not rely on conventional abilities. He did not measure his strength by weapons or combat skill. He had none. Instead, he drew from his testimony, from his personal history with God. He stood before King Saul and spoke with unwavering certainty, grounded not in talent, but in experience and faith. The silence that has felt like a deep emptiness, the stillness that has stirred questions within you, is not his absence. It is, in truth, his focus and unwavering attention. He is forming something profound inside you, something of lasting significance, something that demands his full concentration. And that level of focus, that kind of divine craftsmanship, requires stillness. Just as a skilled sculptor needs quiet to understand the stone, or an experienced builder needs silence to ensure the strength of a structure, in the same way, God uses quiet to refine the masterpiece he is shaping within you. This stillness is not emptiness. It is a sacred place of transformation. Now, once you truly understand and absorb the reality that the silence you have experienced is not random or meant to punish you, but is instead intentional and purposeful, guided by divine design, you are ready to step into the next essential phase of transformation. Because within this understanding is where real, visible change in your identity begins to accelerate and take form. You must intentionally, consciously, and permanently stop apologizing for the assignment that heaven has placed on your life. This is not only about outward actions or how you appear to others, though that does play a role. It reaches deeper, into the quiet agreements you make with yourself when no one else is around, within the private space of your thoughts and fears. It shows up in the subtle way you reduce your vision, making it smaller, less bold, less demanding before you even speak it aloud. It appears in the quiet, self-sabotaging habit of weakening your own calling, minimizing its strength, or limiting its reach, or as an unconscious attempt to protect yourself from rejection. That internal habit of apologizing has cost you more than you realize, far beyond missed chances or unrealized potential. It has been sending a clear signal into the spiritual realm, a message that reflects a lack of complete confidence in the declaration heaven has already spoken over your life. And heaven, in its order and respect for your free will, does not override a signal you are continually sending that contradicts its truth. In doing so, you have been silencing the divine harmony with your own conflicting notes of doubt. Think about Esther, a woman placed in an impossible situation, yet called to a purpose far greater than herself. She became aware, perhaps gradually, that she had been positioned in the royal palace with intentional precision, chosen for a defining moment. But there came a single, critical turning point where she faced a life or death decision. She had to choose whether to approach the king without being summoned, a bold act that could result in her execution, or remain in the perceived safety of silence while destruction loomed over her people. In that moment of intense pressure, her guardian Mordecai sent her a message that would shape her destiny. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Notice the weight of those words. He did not suggest she might play a small or optional role. He declared that this specific, defining moment was the very reason for her placement. The palace was not a coincidence. It was a destination, the place she had been meant to reach all along. And in that moment of realization, she stepped forward. She stopped apologizing for her position and the favor that placed her there. She stood, not in fear, but in the identity that had been prepared for her long before her birth, a queen by divine decision, not merely by human choice. Because of a courageous and obedient action, the decree meant to destroy her people was not only confronted but reversed, changing the course of history. Stay with this. Pay close attention. What comes next carries the power to break every limiting pattern that has been holding you back. What Esther demonstrates is not boldness as a personality trait or natural confidence that some people have and others do not. What she shows is boldness as an act of obedience. And that difference matters deeply for where you stand right now. Because there are those hearing this who do not naturally see themselves as bold. You may not be the loudest person in the room or someone who easily draws attention. Confidence may not come naturally to you in the way it seems to for others, and the enemy has used that perception against you, planting the idea that the size of your calling requires a personality you do not have. But that is not the truth. It is a deeper deception beneath the surface. Following God has never required you to become someone else or to take on a version of yourself that feels unnatural or forced. On the contrary, genuine obedience to God calls you to step fully, authentically, and powerfully into who you already are, the person He intentionally designed you to be. The actions He is inviting you to take, the bold responsibilities placed before you, are not meant for someone else's personality, someone else's bravery, or someone else's voice. They have been carefully shaped for you. They align perfectly with your unique courage, your individual voice, your personal way of navigating the world, and your specific nature. God's plan for your life is not a standard mold that forces you to reshape yourself to fit it. It is more like a custom-made garment, perfectly tailored to reflect the essence of who He created you to be. Your quiet strength, your thoughtful mindset, your compassionate nature, these are not weaknesses that need to be fixed. They are essential parts of the authority and influence you carry within His kingdom. Now, we move into something even deeper, something that reaches beyond the surface into the very core truth. The inward journey, that sacred and often unseen place where real transformation takes root, is not always loud or dramatic. It does not always appear as a sudden, overwhelming moment of revelation. While such moments do happen, more often it looks like steady, quiet, sometimes difficult commitment, simply showing up for what you are being called to do, taking one step at a time long before you feel ready, prepared, or confident. Think about Gideon, a man marked by fear and uncertainty. He was hiding in a winepress, secretly preparing wheat to avoid the Midianites, when the angel of the Lord appeared to him and called him a mighty warrior. In that moment, nothing about his situation reflected strength. He did not feel courageous. He was afraid. What he was doing was not heroic. It was about survival. Yet the angel did not wait for him to appear strong before speaking that identity over him. Instead, He addressed him based on who he was meant to become, not who he seemed to be in that moment. And something within Gideon responded to that truth. He remained afraid. He still asked for confirmation, seeking reassurance in the only way someone uncertain can. But despite all of that, he moved. He acted while still feeling fear. That movement, though hesitant and imperfect, was enough. Through that obedience, he was able to overcome an army far greater in number. This shows the power of taking action, even when fear is still present. This truth sets you free. God is not waiting for you to feel ready, fully qualified, or completely confident. He is waiting for you to take a step forward. And here is the difficult reality many avoid. The idea of being ready as you define it is often an illusion. It can become a subtle trap that keeps you stuck, endlessly preparing but never moving. There is no future version of your life that suddenly begins once you feel perfectly equipped or free from doubt. Your qualification for your calling was not something you needed to earn later. It was established before you were even born. What is missing right now is not more preparation, more learning, or more planning. What is missing is that one decisive step taken in faith, even when everything feels uncertain. But let's go deeper, into something more personal. There's a reason you keep finding yourself in the same cycles, the same patterns, even though you genuinely desire change. There's a reason similar fears continue to appear in different situations. There's a reason that no matter how much clarity or inspiration you receive, you often end up standing at the same point, ready for change, yet unable to move forward. When this happens, many people blame external forces. Some point to spiritual opposition, while others look to their past, the pain, the wounds, the people who hurt or disappointed them. And those things are real. They matter, and they have caused real pain. But beneath all of that, there is something more subtle and often overlooked. Something that quietly holds you in place. The barrier is not primarily the enemy's direct power. It is your quiet agreement with the story he has been suggesting about you. Think about those moments when you felt inspired, when something inside you shifted, when you sensed clarity, and then, without fully realizing why, you pulled back. Think about the times you felt ready to move forward, only to talk yourself out of it in your own thoughts. Think about standing at the edge of something new, and choosing what felt safe and familiar instead. That pattern is not accidental. It is rooted in the internal agreement you have made, often without realizing it. In that moment, you were not being attacked from the outside by the enemy. You were making a choice, not because you are weak, not because your faith is lacking, not because you are inadequate, but because deep beneath your conscious awareness, you've been functioning as if God's word over your life, His unchangeable declaration, depends on your flawless performance to remain true. You have been living as though the promise spoken over you is dependent on your worthiness, your perfection, your consistent success. As if one mistake, one failure, one moment of not being enough could cause everything to be taken away, the calling removed, the promise cancelled, the anointing withdrawn, and that belief, quiet, deeply rooted, and completely untrue, has been acting as a ceiling over your growth and your destiny. It is not the enemy. It is not your past. It is not your situation. It is a belief that the promise came with hidden conditions you have not fulfilled, that there is some fine print you missed. Hear this clearly, with full attention and understanding. There is no fine print. There are no hidden requirements. Epistle to the Romans 11 verse 29 states it plainly. God's gifts and his calling are irrevocable, not dependent on perfection, not paused because of your performance, not subject to change. Irrevocable. That word carries a meaning of something that cannot be taken back, cannot be altered, cannot be cancelled under any circumstance, not by your past mistakes, not by your present fears, not by delays, and not by doubt. What was spoken over your life, what was placed within you before you were even formed, has not expired. It has not been given to someone else. It has not been withdrawn because you avoided it, doubted it, or struggled to follow it. It has not been cancelled because you were tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed. It is still active. It still stands. It still belongs to you. This is not an idea. It is a core truth of who you are. And when this truth moves from your mind into your heart, everything begins to change. You stop trying to earn what has already been given. You stop exhausting yourself attempting to prove something that has already been decided in your favor. You step out of that painful space between how the world defines you, with its labels and limits, and who God has already declared you to be. And you begin to close that gap, not instantly, not perfectly, but step by step, moment by moment, moving from striving to receiving, from fear to trust. This shift changes everything. It affects how you think, how you move, how you live. And here is the final truth you need to understand today. For too long, you have treated your calling as something far away, something you must reach someday. But your calling is not a distant destination. It is not something outside of you waiting in the future. It is already within you. Everything God placed inside you, the full design of your purpose, was not put on hold until you became a better version of yourself. It is not delayed. It is not waiting. It is already present and active within you right now. Access to your calling is not something that will arrive later. It is already here, alive within you. What is required now is not more preparation, not more waiting, not better conditions. What is required is your willingness to start living from the identity that has already been declared over you, instead of shrinking into a smaller version shaped by fear and limitation. The decision has already been made in heaven. Your identity, your purpose, your calling, they have already been established. The only question left is whether you will agree with it. Place your hand over your heart and say this. I release every agreement I have made with the belief that I am too late, too flawed, or too far behind to walk in what has been assigned to me. I let go of the need to perform. I let go of the need to apologize. I release every label given to me by people who could not see what was already declared over my life. I receive the calling that has been mine since before I was formed. I declare that what is within me is not ordinary, not replaceable, and not dependent on my perfection. I move forward, not because I feel ready, but because the one who called me is faithful. I am not waiting for change. Change has been waiting for me. I am chosen. I am set apart. I am sent. And I begin now. If those words reach the place within you that everything else this week could not touch, then take the next step. What is waiting for you is not just another result. It is a continuation of what has already started in this moment. A daily stream of guidance, insight, and spiritual direction. A system to help you recognize where resistance has been affecting your life and how to respond. And focus prayers for those early morning hours when you find yourself awake without understanding why. Go to the first pinned comment. What comes next in your journey requires a strong foundation, and that is where it begins.